I love it. I love it. And I'm really curious. Like, so you go down this ayahuasca journey, and what do you feel like what are you able to accomplish in that state that you're not able to accomplish in just a regular state of life?
The best way that I can describe it is that it connects your mind in such a way that it unblocks negativity, so to speak, and it makes you experience yourself freely the way that God wants you to experience yourself. Like all of your doubts, all of that goes away. All of your traumas, they go away. Imagine if you could snap your fingers and you could get rid of all your traumas like that. And that means that you're unblocking neurological pathways now that are firing off that normally wouldn't. So you're just creating all these connections in your brain and now you can think clearly.
Yeah.
Or what if you can snap your finger and say, I want to discover the root of this trauma, or I want to discover the root of this significant obstacle that I've had. I imagine if you could snap your fingers and it would dissolve. That's very powerful. I think everybody can say that the movie Limitless is very impactful because that's what it mirrors. It creates this circuitry where it's just firing off at intense levels without the, what's it called? Well, without the come down, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if you could sustain that level constantly. And that's kind of what ayahuasca does. But remember, it's Mother Ayahuasca. It's very specific into what it's healing. It's trying to heal you. It's trying to show you what you need to see, the way a mother would guide you. It's a soft healing.
Yeah.
And what I mean by soft is that a mother's love is soft. Father's love can be harder. That's just the nature of things. And that's what Mother Ayahuasca shows you. It's a soft way of connecting anything that needs to be connected temporarily so that you can experience it and then come back to your normal state and decipher it and do all of the work necessary to achieve that state that you were in. It's similar to when something happens to society, like 9/11. I remember the very next day after 9/11, everybody was so open-minded, open-hearted, like, oh, let's dissolve all these barriers between humanity and who gives a shit what religion and what social class and this and that. Everybody's willing to help each other out of the sadness, out of an experience, because something has dissolved the barriers. And that's what ayahuasca does. It dissolves the barriers. But the important part is being able to sustain that feeling over time. You come down and now you're like back to wherever you were. And just like 9/11, how long did it take for people to be pieces of shit to each other again?
It's interesting because I feel like we're born in such a pure state. And as we continue to go through things and we have all these different life events happen, like for you're talking about things with school, like you and I have some parallels with that. I didn't have a very easy time with school myself. Didn't really have many friends. Didn't fit in. It was like, hey, I was kind of branded as, hey, there's something wrong with this guy, or this guy's broken. Like, the time I was like in middle school, like I was going through psychiatric evaluations and I got kicked out of middle school. And it's just, and you just sit there and you look through all these different things that happen, right? And you go and you create all these walls in your life, right? These events in your life, they form traumas.
Yeah.
And to keep these traumas out, you build walls, right? So now it's like, now my inner dialogue is telling myself, hey, there is something wrong with me. I am broken. If I encounter somebody or I interact with somebody, that is going to reflect poorly on that person. I'm going to bring that person down. I'm like not doing somebody a service by interacting with them or trying to be somebody's friend. And bam, I'm now shutting down as a person. I'm a burden to society. I'm a burden to other people. And I basically had to convince myself of all of that, like all these layers of different things happening. And you fall further down the rabbit hole. It's like, hey, I am a bad person. I am a burden to society. I am different. I am broken. There is something wrong with me. And all of these things are just things that I came up with myself and built all these walls or ideas or inner dialogue. And it's like, and how do you get to that remembrance of who it was that you were originally born, like the state that you were originally born in, and how do we just spend all these years unlearning all the stuff that we've taught ourselves that may not even be true about ourselves?
It takes a special type of soul energy, first of all. Not everybody's meant to go through these experiences. And we also have to be mindful or understanding that there's cycles in the universe. Like right now, we're entering the golden era. I think that's what the Vedics called it. And we're coming out of the age of ignorance. And it has a lot to do with the zodiac signs, right? And the motion of the earth and the motion of the universe itself, and that there's cycles in the universe itself where maybe there is specific time frames, because we live under time, where we're just meant to be ignorant, right? And that's where it gets a little difficult to understand, and you have to have faith and leaps of faith on what you don't yet know. But what we do know is that following your heart isn't enough. It's learning all of these things. And how are you going to learn them? Well, you have to be a special type of soul. There's a soul energy that is necessary in an age of darkness to be able to recognize these things. And it's based off of your ancestors, the power of your ancestors. There are some leaders, and there are some people that are meant to be leaders, and some people that are not. Some people, even if they had the opportunity, might not want to be leaders, right? And I don't mean leading a country like a president, because God doesn't look at it that way, right? God is looking for quality over quantity. Because if you understand the structure of the universe and how it applies universally to everybody, and you start having all these aha moments by embodying them yourself and having grace and not judging and just measuring and continually improving yourself, you're going to get to a point where you're resonating, you're vibrating so high where all these things are just going to come to you intuitively. So you say that you're, beating yourself up all this time as a kid and all these burdens and this and that. You're describing like Jacob's ladder. And that's something that happens to everybody at some point in time on a smaller scale or a grander scale, frequently or infrequently. It just depends. But every human being battles with this. Well, with some kind of insecurities, self-doubt. It's just part of human nature, and society takes a toll on us. And that's why it's so important to have a strong family unit. I promote strong family unit, mother, father, children, because there's an intrinsic value to that. It's an inherent value. So you're telling me that you have all of these feelings, and as you're a kid, remember, your experience is based off of two things: what happens to you and what you do. You are not responsible for the people that are doing the things to you. You really are not, to a degree, right? If you really want to get to the minutia of it. But at the end of the day, if you have these parameters, what I call fixed parameters, you can guide your own self through life very pragmatically and very mystically, because these are parameters that are universal for everybody, independent of your belief system, independent of whatever you think or your opinion. The structure of the universe is for everybody. And you're there to mold it accordingly and use it to shape your reality. So what I'm getting at is, it's a soul energy that is inherited, and it's not meant for everybody, but these are the things that everybody experiences as well. So for you, I get the sense that you do have that soul energy. I can sense it off of you, right? You really do. And you've been proving it left and right, not just to me, but I'm sure to God as well. And it takes a special type of person to even be interested in these things. What interests people in Kabbalah or self-reflection or this or that? It can be different for everybody, but it takes a special type of energy. So I'm glad that you were able to identify that at a young age, and look at you now.
It's definitely been a wild ride. There's no question about that. Have you ever watched, there's this TV show, Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I haven't. I've heard about it, but I'm a huge fan of Avatar, the movies. They're awesome.
So completely unrelated. This is a kids show. It's a kids show from I believe it was like the early or mid 2000s.
Nice.
And there's essentially like a long like lineage of ancestors that are avatars who like master all these elements: air, water, earth, and fire. And there's like a young one who's born, they call him Aang, and he is the last airbender. The rest of the airbenders became extinct, and they're like, oh my god, this guy has the soul energies, a reincarnation of the previous avatars. And it's like, how can we rely on him? He's a young kid to kind of grow into this full avatar and master like the four elements and kind of like unite. I think the fire kingdom had kind of control over all the nations. Like, how can he defeat the fire kingdom and unite the nations? Yeah. And the show essentially goes through his journey to like learn these elements, but there are certain things that he couldn't learn in this current lifetime. So he had to go back into different like states, like different meditative states, and go back and remember the stuff that his ancestors were capable of and were doing to master the four elements so he could unite the kingdoms. And it was really interesting watching that. The first time I watched it, I was a kid. I think the show came out in like 2005 or 2006. I was like not even a teenager yet. And I rewatched it a few years ago. Again, a kid's show. And I'm like, holy shit. This entire thing was incredibly deep. It's like, it is basically telling us that all this pain and all this stuff that this guy's going through, he literally needed to not only move forward in the current life that he's at and learn about the things that he needed to learn, but to go back into the previous lives that he had, that his soul had already lived through, and remember those experiences and be able to channel them in this current lifetime that he's living. And lo and behold, he moves through the journey, right? And he eventually gets to a point where he masters the four elements and goes head to head with the Fire Lord and is able to kind of get it taken care of. And all of a sudden, the kingdoms are like, hey, like the Avatar basically came to save us.